What's going on, guys? Welcome back to High Top Sports Oregon. Dan Lanning and the Ducks are absolutely cooking. Derek the Duck Zelma here. We were talking about it today. Could be some cooking happening. Then boom, it happens. Not one, but two big-time commits here for Dan Lanning and the Ducks. And we also seems like they're not done. We're going to talk all about that today. Let's pass it over to our Duck insider here, Derek the Duck Zelmer. How you feeling, Derek?
Man, these are great. These are my favorite videos to shoot, the post-commitment videos. So, I'm pretty stoked not only to have one, but a second commitment that followed maybe 40 minutes after the first one.
Very
And kind of
quick.
like you prefaced, I don't think they're done this weekend. So, I mean, it's a pretty damn good time to be a Duck. I know you've said it a couple times, and I think that holds true. That man, Dan, he's absolutely cooking right now.
He is. You were texting me before the Nasir Wyatt commit, and two names that you mentioned to me, those two names didn't commit today. Kind of a little surprise
Hmm.
here for you. So we're gonna get into those names, but let's talk about Nasir Wyatt. I actually watched him commit live. Committed to Oregon over Texas and Tennessee. You're getting yourself not only a good player, but a great player. Top 100 player in the country, 4-star linebacker here, and Nasir Wyatt. Let him know, Derek, what you guys are getting.
Yeah, I mean, the proof is kind of in the pudding here. So this is a man that Dan and Tosh have prioritized for the last year of his recruitment cycle. So it's kind of nice to see this thing kind of come to fruition and close out full circle. But yeah, as you mentioned, he's a top 100 player. I think they have him rated somewhere in the 70s currently. And if he puts on any type of size this fall, I expect that number to push into the 50s potentially. As you can see from his tape, he's extremely aggressive, really violent off the snap. And that's kind of what, his bread and butter is, that quick first step, kind of blowing by these slower offensive linemen. And it's been highly effective. He plays at Mater Dei, which we all know is a national powerhouse in terms of high school football, and has been wildly successful there since his freshman year. And then, he's obviously heading into his senior year this year, and they expect big things out of him there. So we're kind of excited to see how that development takes place. But just kind of securing that commitment is something that we've been waiting for a couple weeks. I know if people go back and look at our videos from about a month ago, this was a name that we had said we expected to commit at some point, and it just happened to happen sooner rather than later. So really excited to get him on board. I think last time I saw his comp was Nolan Smith, former Georgia Bulldog, plays for the Eagles right now. Nasir's he has a very similar style. He's got to put on a little bit more positive size, the mass um, in terms of muscle, but we expect that to happen, and he has potential to be a high round pick in the NFL someday if everything kind of comes to fruition and the development takes place. So really excited to grab his commitment. He's been really high on the Ducks, been very vocal about it for quite some time now, so it's not necessarily a surprise to see it happen. But yeah, definitely a good time to be a Duck. Dan's prioritizing that defense once again. So excited to see that.
The defense was something that we spoke about in the offseason very early on. A point of emphasis. I think you guys did a great job in the portal with wide receiver talent, cornerback talent. Obviously, the quarterback room is thick as all get out. It was the defensive line, which we're going to get into here in just a moment. But real quick about Nasir Wyatt. So 247, it has it kind of confused. And if you watch his film, you see him coming off the edge. They've got him ranked as the top 8th edge in the country, but his position is labeled as linebacker. And what's funny, I was watching his film knowing, remembering this guy's an edge player, then saw that they have him labeled as a linebacker. But watching him, I felt he feels to me he's gonna be more of like that weak side linebacker, just based on his size. Like you said, could beef up a little bit, could switch down into that edge position. But ultimately, we got a talented young man here with a lot of skill and speed as well, as you guys saw in that film, and not afraid to hit somebody either. Coming from the state of California. Now, this puts you guys ranked 21 overall with a total of 6 commits, all 4-star guys, 93, 92, 92, 90, 90, 90, all the way down. Probably looking about an average about a 91, 92, which is absolutely incredible for this recruiting class. And we keep talking about this class. Last year was a record-breaking class for the Ducks. I think we're trending to beat that, Derek. I'm not trying to, count our ducks before they hatch, but, it's
Hey, I think you're right. It's kind of something we've talked about. I've been on here and I've said the same thing where I think this year's class could break last year's class, which is absolutely ridiculous to kind of have that in back-to-back years. But yeah, I think they're absolutely trending that way, and it's you can see it in the quality. I think the average rating of a commit right now is hovering in the 93 range. So that's pretty impressive, albeit they're sitting in the 20s. But if we know one thing about Dan and kind of the recruits he goes after, it's they definitely close hard into the fall, and I expect to see that once again. But this is a wonderful, nice little appetizer until we hit that fall cycle when things really start to get rolling.
Absolutely. Boys and girls, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe. You guys enjoyed the content the last one we posted. We appreciate the support on the way to 1,000 subs. So be sure to smash that sub button. Let's talk about the other commit that you guys got today, defensive lineman. This is a dog right here. You guys are picking up on the D line. Again, the D line, I just said, was a point of emphasis for yourself that you felt that they need to go after. And the Ducks, and we've been talking about this for the last 3 months here, are in a great position to be aggressive in the portal, which here they go. They've pick and choose, it felt like, who they needed to leave. Make some room. Let's get it done. You get the number one defensive lineman in the transfer portal, and Derek Harmon, top 70 player ranked last year according to PFF. We're going to show you that here in just a minute. It looked like it was a USC Colorado battle. Then Oregon from the cloud says, you know what? We've got room. Dan Lanning to the rescue.
Oh yeah, I mean we can't even be surprised when Dan pulls one out of his pocket. Uh, I kind of touched on it before we jumped onto the stream here. I think one thing that definitely had going for him is when he jumped into the portal the first time in the winter portal. Oregon was a heavy contender in terms of securing that commitment. Obviously, opted to end up to withdraw his name from the portal. Jumps back in, and like you said, it was kind of a surprise just because all the smoke was heading toward USC and Colorado over the last couple days. Myself included was kind of surprised to see that notification come through, but man, this is one of those great surprises you absolutely love to see. Dude is absolutely massive. As you mentioned, he's nothing short of a dog. And one of the things that we've been talking about on this cast for many weeks now is kind of how that defensive line is probably the key to this year's roster, just in terms of being able to fill that and have someone step up. But kind of bringing in a guy like Derek Harmon, that's an immediate plug and play. Your run defense is absolutely bolstered immediately. It takes a lot of pressure off of some of these young guys that are coming in. I think this might be one of the most impactful transfers that they have. Maybe it's just because of where the roster sits currently, but just in terms of shoring everything up on that defense, I think this was that final piece they absolutely needed to be, that contender next year if they do want to compete for not only a college football playoff spot, but a national title. It started there, especially in a run-heavy league like the Big Ten. So securing this commitment was nothing short of huge for the Ducks and Dan Lanning.
6'5", 320. It's exactly where I was headed with this pickup. Is you're getting somebody from the conference that you're headed into, right? So it's surprisingly so. Though that transition is going to be a little bit tough, I think, for some of your guys, especially on defensively when you're used to playing these high tempo offense, very West Coast style offenses. The Big Ten is just ground and pound Cornhusker football, right? The corn fed boys up the middle, and so to get a guy that's accustomed to that, I think is a much bigger pull than people are actually realizing. That it's he's going to have an advantage because he's been playing in that league already. He's been going up against those guys. It's not going to be much of a shock to him. And I'm not saying the team's going to be in this complete overhaul shock, but there is going to be some growing pains by transferring into a different conference. That's why we see these kind of sways in the bowl games, because you're just used to playing a certain style that your conference has grown accustomed to. So there is going to be, again, some growing pains, but I think Dan Lanning and the Ducks have addressed those things with recruiting and the portal. And I feel like they're going to be one of the better teams, if not the best team, heading into the Big Ten and have a very smooth transition heading into it. So he's an incredible pickup. And again, like you said, probably one of the biggest pickups you are going to have, given the lackluster your defensive line had last year, and then concerns we had going into this year. Now, like we said at the beginning of the show, there's more to come. We had what would you call it? A quack attack? Quackzilla?
Yeah, the Quack Watch. We're on Quack Watch,
Quack
baby.
Watch. Okay. All right, I love it. I love coining that phrase. Well, we didn't, but Quack Watch. So I love it. It's basically a Seat Will Fong or a Fong Bomb, because that's some Quack Watches out there. Now, was this for these two guys? Was it for others? That's where you step in. What are you thinking, Derek?
Yeah, so when I first saw it, I kind of had a feeling this year why it was kind of one of those guys, just because his commitment was, he announced it was coming up this week. I don't think anybody who follows his recruitment at all was shocked when he picked the Ducks. So, I mean, that was nice. I think potentially what we were looking at was the Derek Harmon pickup. That one kind of took a lot of people by surprise today. But like you said, that's not even it. I think the Ducks could secure another commitment before this weekend ends. Kind of looking over in that Peyton Woodyard direction. That's something we've been talking about, in our last video there. I think the more this kind of thing pushes along, it sounds like it's the Ducks to lose. I don't think he's visiting any other campuses, and I think we could secure that commitment before Sunday night ends. And then, there's another running back coming in this week who makes his commitment on May 10th. So a week from Friday. And I think it's kind of trending the Ducks direction there as well. So the next week is just going to be absolutely massive for the Ducks and kind of securing their future heading into Big Ten play.
I did see a comment kind of caught my attention because we were a little, or you were anyways, a little bodacious, a little fired up about it. The Duck fans are getting a little cocky. The peacock wings, the duck wings are flying. And you have every right to be, right? And if there's probably some older Duck fans that like kind of flying under the radar, you're not under the radar anymore. You are out there and in there and everybody and punching everybody in the face. Look, that's Dan Lanning's way. Like if you haven't recognized this guy throwing a stogie, dropping a video mid Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama drama, this guy doesn't mind being in the spotlight. Although he says we don't play for clicks, it's a very subtle and swag way about it, how he approaches the game for sure.
Yeah, I think those people who are, they like living in the days where the Ducks are kind of, laying in the shadows and, might come out and, pop up a Rose Bowl appearance every once in a while. That's done. I hate to tell everybody they are officially on the national radar to stay here. With the NIL era, the Ducks aren't going anywhere. I saw a tweet in a little thread earlier I was reading today where it was talking about how the Ducks are built for the NIL era. Just with their collective, the mindset of the university, the chancellors and such like that, where athletics, primarily football, is just absolutely fundamental to the university. And I think as we kind of progress and Dan continues to build his brand at Oregon, I think it's only going to be one of those things where every single year in and year out, we're going to be talking about the Ducks, whether they have a successful year in our eyes or an unsuccessful year. Regardless, we're going to be in people's mouths. So the people who like lying in the shadows, I got bad news for you guys. That's no longer happening. That's not an option being a Duck fan anymore.
And you shouldn't want to. I think they're going to be a true legitimate threat, like you said. They're set up perfectly, and I think they have the perfect coach that fits their mold. And he kind of set the tone that I'm not going anywhere, and why would he? He's got everything he needs to be successful and to compete at a high level. And with 12-team playoffs, I think Oregon's going to be here for a very long time and be a legitimate threat. And look, even though we talk about them, we're hyped up, you're hyped up about it, it still hasn't really hit national media, in my opinion. The SEC is still the big brother. Whether you want to hear that or not, that's not me being a homer. That just is what it is. That's factual. So they're going to carry the weight, obviously, headed into the season. And Ohio State's always going to carry that national brand. Oregon's got to set the tone. And you guys have that opportunity October against Ohio State. And I think Oregon's going to put a lot of people on notice. So although, like we said, you're fired up. Most Oregon fans are fired up. Still to the national media, you're still kind of that quiet underdog in a way. I think you're still not getting enough respect that you probably should be, but it'll be there, unfortunately for myself, sooner rather than later.
Oh, you still got to earn your stripes. So, until
Sure.
they go out there and they start beating these Ohio States and, go to the big house and beat Michigan
Go
this year.
win a Big Ten
Find
championship
yourself.
this year, and you're here.
Yeah, 100%. So you still got to earn it. We can have all the hype in the world, but until, the final whistle blows and Oregon starts winning some nationally spotlighted games, it's going to continue to be that way. When I say, they're going to be in people's minds and people's mouths, it's just because they are in that tier of upper echelon teams currently. But we want to see them take that next step. We want to go from being in the conversation to being the conversation every year. So I think that's the direction Dan has this program heading into. And like you said, he's not afraid to kind of lean into it and let the people know Dan's here to stay.
I love it. Well, Derek the Duck Zelmer, appreciate your great insight there. Duck fans should be fired up. And if you are fired up, you know what to do. Smash the like button, subscribe, turn the bell on. Because if anything happens this weekend, Derek, myself, and maybe the professor will be ready to rock and roll and provide that information for you, whatever does happen, whether it's a Peyton Woodyard running back, what have you. But big time visit weekend for the Ducks, and I'm assuming we're going to have some big time visits leading up. So we're ramping up into big time recruiting season headed into May and June. Football season's almost here, boys. We'll get there 1 week and 1 day at a time. But until next time, I'm Shelton. That's Derek the Duck. We'll see you, boys. Peace and love.